Very good afternoon to you and welcome again to another protest action here. The Village Voice is at your service again this morning. Well, it's afternoon now, it's 12:30. We bring to you this broadcast at the Square of the Revolution, Coffee Square in Ghana, and the APNU coalition MPs and other supporters are on the picket line protesting the government. Again, you would remember that they were here last Wednesday and they have announced that they'll be here every Wednesday. And now they are here again to protest against, as they call it, the atrocities of the government. And so we're going to be speaking with a few of the organizers of the protest in a few, but we just want to let you see exactly what they have on their placards as one of some of the reasons why they're protesting again on this Wednesday. You would have been informed that they're going to be here every Wednesday protesting. So we have Christopher Jones here, Chief Whip MP, and on his card he has all ethnic groups must matter for Guyana. That's Mr. Christopher Jones is going to come back to him just now for a chat. We have another supporter. She says PP achievement since August 2nd, narco trafficking, increasing murders, increasing dismissal, increase COVID deaths, everything increasing. We have another MP here, and he is saying achievements of the PPP in the 100 days: discrimination, dismissal, bullyism, harassment, ethnic cleansing, jobless, and murders. We have in the ring MP and MP Ricky on the picket line. MP Amanzo Walton Desire is on the line as well. She's saying achievements of the PP 100 days.
This is just the first 100 days. We will do one with the first year. And the Guyanese people will begin to see just how miserably they're failing and just how far the country has descended in 365 days from where it was. We are out here, as we said, we will be out here every Wednesday, and we will be highlighting and we will continue to highlight the fact that the PPP seems content to make Guyana and to once again set Guyana on the path of becoming a failed state. And we will be out here speaking up for our rights. This is our constitutional right, and we will not be silent. I'm so happy today to see that a number of persons have come out and have joined the MPs. And this will continue, it will grow, and we will not be deterred by numbers. We will not be deterred by numbers. The smallest stream can cut through the largest rock. And so we will continue to bring the pressure on the installed regime. There's just too much going on for us to stay silent and for us to wait until they choose to call Parliament to speak. You're seeing every day a breakdown of law and order. We're learning overnight about a woman being shot, the daughter of a Tashao in Region 9 being shot by the REO. What is striking to me is that these incidents are occurring at business places of known associates of the PPPC after the curfew hours. And so you have a regime and their supporters who clearly do not believe that law and order need to be followed. And this is why you're seeing an exponential increase in the COVID-19 cases, because there's a disregard from the head down for all of the COVID-19 protocols. Now you have clearly people gathering after 10:30 for this incident to happen. A young lady is shot, and we're waiting to see what will happen. Because this is, of course, the REO, who is a former member of the PPPC. So we are waiting to see whether the wheels of justice will only turn when it comes to victimizing APNU, AFC members and their supporters, or whether all men will be equal before the law in Guyana. So we are out here and we'll continue to be out here and continue to bring light and international attention to these atrocities happening in Guyana.
Amanda, what would you say to those folks who are saying in the public that you're the protest is just talking. There's no pushback, no really major pushback on the government because you're talking, but the government is still doing whatever they're doing. What would you say to those persons who are making those statements?
Listen, your responsibility is to speak up for your rights. You have no idea how far and how impacting it will be when you start to speak up. You don't need to worry about results. Your first duty is to stand up for your rights. And if every Guyanese man, woman, and child should stand for their rights, then the government will have no choice. But what they do is that they sow doubt in the minds of the people, but we're not going to be deterred. Our first obligation, like I said, is for us to stand up and speak up for our rights. If we will not stand up and speak up for our rights, we can't count on anybody else to defend our rights. These are our God-given freedom that we have to defend. So if it's me alone or me and Kristen shared alone, we're gonna come out here, or my brother Vince Roy, we're gonna come out here and we're gonna speak up. Because that is what we can control. We can control our voices. We can control whether we speak up or whether we don't speak up. We can continue to highlight these atrocities to the international community. The PPP before 2015 occupied government for 23 years. And in their arrogance, they believed that they would have never been deposed or elected out of office. And in 2015, they were. And in 2020, they were installed. But come 2025, the Guyanese people will dispose of them because they have indicated they have no intention to govern this nation in a manner that says equity and equality for all Guyanese. They're simply about enriching themselves and their cronies whilst the ordinary man suffers.
I want to share. I accept that answer. I want to share your thoughts on the statement that the Minister of Education made yesterday, that on the protest line out there with the teachers and the organizers there, that if the GTU wants to be treated as a professional organization, then they will listen to them. But if they want to be treated as a political organization, then they will treat them as a political organization. What are your thoughts on those statements by the minister?
It displays a lack of understanding on the part of the minister about the nature of a union and the function of a union. That is all it does. It just displays our ignorance as it relates to these matters. And it betrays the mindset that they believe that nobody ought to stand up for what is right. That as soon as you stand up and speak up for your rights, you are being political. And that is the mindset it betrays. And it is quite unfortunate that she would say that, because the law guarantees every citizen the right to peacefully assemble. You see? And so what the minister has done is just betray the contempt with which this government, installed government, views the working class. 3 budgets and public servants cannot get an increase in salary. The union, the GPSU in particular, I'm very unhappy with the attitude of Mr. Patrick Yard, who seems quite content to sit down and twiddle his thumbs, while the workers that he collects union dues from are not properly represented. 3 budgets, 2 budgets and a supplemental, and no increase for public servants. And he seems content to sit and twiddle his thumbs while collecting their union dues. And so that is the role of the union, to bring representation to whatever government. You will recall that the teachers union did not just do this with the BPP, they did it with the AP and UFC coalition, because that is the role and function. And it is a pity that the Minister of Education holds those sentiments, but it just betrays the anti-working class sentiment of this government, of this installed cabal.
So you're saying that you see the government is making a plot or planning something to dismantle unions in this country?
What will you disagree with me to draw that conclusion? The government understands the strength of the union. If you go to the history of the PPPC, you understand the regard with which their founder Chedi Jagan held the union. You see the regard with which and the esteem with which Mr. Burnham held the unions because the unions are the legal and legitimate representative of the people, of the workers. They, over and above even the political organization, have a right, have a duty to fight on behalf of their workers. And so I'm saying that union members must guard against their leaders being compromised into sitting down and twiddling their thumbs. They have to stand up and speak up and demand more because the union owes them a duty. And I want to commend those unions that I see coming out, and I want to say to you, keep up the good work and continue to agitate for workers, and we will be here to support you.
Amanda, before I let you go, you are shadowing foreign affairs.
Mhm.
How is it your message to those in authorities overseas, giving traction and attention, like Cuba, giving attention to Cuba matters? How is it that Guyana's attention is not getting that traction
Well, I
overseas?
don't agree that Guyana is not getting the traction overseas. Two separate congressmen issued statements concerning the equitable distribution of the patrimony of Guyana. It is very clear the Attorney General right now is wanted for threatening Rickford Burke's life. So these matters are clearly within the attention of the international community, and this is why we will continue to speak up because the international community is looking on and they are taking note.
Thank you, Amanda. So we are out here in Coffee Square again with the MPs from the coalition. That's what we want to know. Mr. Sherrod Duncan is here again in the
want to
ring.
know what the hell is Cuffy doing? We got these police out here, but he is not obeying what the court has said that the promotion list is legal. And this installed government got to go, and Hoppy got to go as well. Hoppy, we know what you're doing. You two stink and dirty, and you got to go. And that is what we're staying out here. I'm so ashamed of how you're got this police force. 11 short months. We didn't see this in 5 years. The corruption, the confusion found in the police force. That is what y'all are doing. Karen Basher, the whole pack of y'all. Leave the young women alone in the force. That is what the report said. Karen Bash, the young woman, come, you want your number. You want to be her man? What is your problem? The young lady spoken for and she don't like you. That is what she said. You asked for her number, and when she didn't give it to you, you tried to treat her badly. And Hoppy and all of the others seeing that, and they don't concern. What they are good at is just following unlawful instructions. And what we are seeing is the decadence and decay in the Ghana police force. And Hoppy and the cabal got to go as well, because they're installed too. And that is what we say. We want a professional police force. And this government don't want that, of course, because it serves their purpose to have the chaos and the confusion every living day. There are a whole pack of crosses. Hoppy, do the right thing. The honorable thing. The honorable thing.
MP, your thoughts? You on the picket line?
Yes.
You're from Region 5.
Region 5.
And what is happening in that region? How is that affecting the progress of your MPs and your councillors in that region pertaining to your your fight for democracy?
I would want to start by saying dictatorship has once again taken reign over Guyana. Prior to 20 last August, we had local government democracy in region number 5. We had also a regional democratic council that was careful about the people's well-being and their interests. And since this installed regime would have taken office, we see the installed Minister of Local Government, Mr. Nigel Damlal, moving to instruct NDCs as to what they must do with their subvention, moving to tell RDCs how and what they must do with staff. And that again shows how this administration wants to govern this country in the most corrupt and disreputable way that anybody could think about. And when we come to the Guyana Police Force and the Ministry of Public Security now, Home Affairs, that has taken a toll on Region 5 because of the fact, if you look at my placard here, you'll see murders being achieved in the forest 100 days. You will see dismissal, discrimination, and all that bullyism. And murder speaks of the two Henry boys that were murdered, brutally murdered in the Mahaica Beach region, Joel and Isaiah. And today, we have not seen any form of solid justice in that case. As a matter of fact, we have seen that the magistrate would have dismissed or thrown out the first instances with regard to Isaiah and his murder. And next month we will see or we'll hear of the ruling with Joel's murder. And it is very clear that the police could not have done a proper investigation. It is very clear that the police just did a haphazard work, and in all of that, they failed to bring justice to the families. They failed to bring justice to the people of Region 5. And in Region 5, we are still hurting at this time. And we want to send or sound the alarm here today to this illegal government, and more so the Minister of Public Security, that the lives of Joel and Isaiah will not go down the drain. We will fight as a nation and as a region. We will fight to ensure that their lives, justice is being brought for the lives of the family and more so the people of Region 5. Apart from that, in Region 5, we also see a number of innocent public servants being dismissed, never stood on a political line, never stood on a political campaign. Recently, there were a number of staffers from the Guyana Watching Corporation. I stand here to say to this illegal government and Sheikh Bash and its cabal that those public servants that they would have dismissed in a semi-autonomous agency, they are only being politically vindictive, malicious, and they are moving in the most racist manner as a government. To know that when you send home over 100 plus workers, only 2 of them are Indian workers. What do we call to that? And this government is saying that they care for all and they have all the ordinary citizens at heart. I want to say to Afanali and his installed government that they must go. The time has come for them to leave. They must go. They have failed the people of Guyana in all categories, in all classes. They have failed the people. And Guyana deserves better. Guyana deserves a government that really and truly cares for them, not a PPP administration.
Thank you, sir.
A lot of things bothering me.
What is bothering you, my dear?
A lot of things bothering me. This install government bothering me a lot. That's one. Two, the pink slip $25,000 with a share. 3 cars and large people and get it. They said the name will come for this and the name will come for this. The people pull up the slip. Everybody pull up the pink slip. I got pull up pink slip. They ain't get it. Then they're saying that when they're coming back today, tomorrow here, they stop share money a large and coming back a large. And the people them know we're sharing the pink slip now. We're sharing the pink slip money for the PPP. They're driving the most fancy car. They're riding the bicycle. They're bailing over the house and all kind of thing. Find out where they're getting the money from. Next thing is this install. The police I say they install too because them is arrest you and then don't carry it to court and then do investigation. Why want to find out now? The police them beating up And then they ain't getting no justice to them. Look, they beat a man. This one from CID headquarters. Cuff down a man and try to spay. They say he up on close arrest and he up on no close arrest. He walking this road and he still up on the walk. He up on no close arrest. I want to investigate that whole nothing. They never charge him man nothing yet. They got a lot of police doing things out there, knocking people and then getting charged. That's why they vex when you want to get bite over the river for the hand. Because up to no justice and get for those. Because they know where they're there. A lot of things bothering me. But I gonna wait because she's a PVP. She get justice. A lot of things. Jail, COVID guy, now he's got a full charge. A full charge. And they didn't take out the cell traffic jam now Durban Street stay ready. Just take over both hands. Left, back, right, front, and center, all over he got beat to them. They got check on the jail and the church. Just build a new church within 2 months. A new church, change of everything within 2 months. We get the money from. Soon they go in power. Soon they go in power. The church start building. Windows change, fancy windows, light change. It do over the whole church. The people that we put on from the back, it do over AC right through. The biggest fancy chandelier you could find, he got in the church. Don't want a jail. That's why God said. Yeah, both sides of the road, he got the cars at the bus bar. Road. He's doing nothing. The people weed the grass in Durban Street, we bring the packet up in bags and left it there. Grass growing back out for there. They ain't move it yet. All over the road is there. That's why I want the police them right out there, the traffic police them is come by this monument here and buy people and people buy the book from them for drive. That's why we got all them accidents. The book is buy sell right out there. Good.
You're on the line too. What are some? Why are you out here?
And I'm out here today because this entire government must go because since they're in power, too much of our Afro-Guyanese are being knocked off on their jobs and home. A lot of murders been going on way back in their time since they're going to power since back in their time what they used to do, they come back with the same thing again. And we are tired of this. 5 years APNU was in power. We used to live in love. We had this unity and everything. We need that back. PPP must go. This regime government must go.
Okay. You got anything to say too?
Oh yes. Since they installed regime a state foot in Guyana, we are way back in the days before they were already 23 years ago. Murders started to creep up, a lot of drugs going all over the place, shipload, plate load, anything we could carry drugs. But one good thing, since they go and they give Pompeo access to the river and to the air, the drugs and meeting now is going, but they can't get paid. And when drugs cannot be paid for, and when you collect the drugs, the big drug lords, the big drug suppliers, they ain't concerned with the little people who might bust up couple buyers, bust up in the belly, bust up already put it up. They just come to the big ones who they give the big consignment to. And they just murder them. And then when they murder them, the government does turn and say that it's black people killing these people for the wealth. It's not the black people. It's the suppliers that come, know where they live in, know everything about them, and wipe out the entire family. And then the PVP saying it's black people massacring the Kuli people because of the wealth. Now it's the big ones for the drugs money. So I want the outer world and they sit down there and they're talking a lot of things what you see the PPP doing. They know that Uncle Sam listening to them and watching them. And things gonna come down. Right now we done that sanction from America because we believe we can't get no visa. And that is one thing I glad Granger did do the recount and let the world know that Granger didn't rig the election. Because if Granger didn't do the recount, if he didn't do the recount and let the world see that he didn't rig it, it's them to will rig it, sanctions would come. And when it come to the Haitians, them, CARICOM never took a stand with Guyana. That's right. When they had the election, had CARICOM taken a stand, this thing with Haiti, they would have been able to be more firm. But as far as I could see, Guyana and they should get out of CARICOM and CARICOM should be dissolved. All them other people love the Venezuelans coming take over. The Spanish coming, everybody coming. But because Asians black, they can't get. And before that, when we as Guyanese used to go to the Claxton place near Martley, they used to, now we in them who used to go. They used to put them on the benches sit down and treat them like dogs. And that is one part by Vexed Brain. You should have never accept that Claxton near Martley in this country. If I can't like you for breakfast, I can never like you for dinner and lunch. So that is me.
All right. All right, sir. What do you have to say?
Well, me really looking for what them thing right about. I was going to say the police brutalization since this PPP took over. There's more police brutalization and there's more police in this town doing a set of stupidness more than the civilians them. You understand me? Life is not no race, is not no force. But it's the way how you live life, that is how life does run because we are one no matter what. Black, Indian, this or what. But we're supposed to get equal rights and justice. No matter what or how. Equal rights and justice that always want.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We have 4 minutes of education. Dr. Henry is on the line. You were here. I haven't heard from you in a while. I mean, you've been watching on, but what are some of the things that really disturb you, especially in the education sector?
Well, today I am here primarily because we have not been seeing inclusionary governance. This is not about sector, this is about governance. And so, what I want to say is that we will continue to call out, we will continue to take the necessary steps to ensure that the lives of ordinary Guyanese people are not trampled upon around the clock, like we see what is happening currently.
Hmm.
That is what I want to say today. Of course, I served as the education minister, and there are many things in the sector that we know are not working right.
We heard the minister recently came out and said that.
But before you even get to what's working right or wrong in the education sector, we need to look at the whole issue of governance.
Mm-hmm.
Ordinary guys, on a daily basis, their lives are being trampled upon, and that cannot continue, and that cannot be supported. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's stick to that today.
Okay, that's 4 minutes with Dr. Henry on the line, Nicolette Henry here, and she's very concerned about governance. Governance.
I'm calling for inclusionary governance.
Inclusionary governance.
Including, governance for all those marginalized people. We gotta fix it,
But
and they gotta fix it now.
The word that Minister of Education current said that the education sector is doing all it can to ensure that they get inclusionary governance. She also said yesterday that if the GTU continue to operate like a political party, she's going to treat them like a political party.
Well,
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I kind of find it really concerning that any government official, no matter what side you're on, to make such a statement against the unions that are the representative of the workers and the workforce, it's crossing the line, and it's something that should not happen in democratic society. So that call is out of order to begin with. Secondly, I wish to say that it should be the aspiration of any government official to work in collaboration with the union to better the lives and the working conditions of teachers. But if you're going to, from the onset, set out to be on different paths, then we're going to have further issues along the way that could have been avoided and averted from the beginning. So I see us going down a dangerous path when you're going to have the union and the ministry and the government by extension locking it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the teachers are unionized. A lot of the teachers are going to definitely be taking guidance and so from the union where their well-being, their remuneration and so forth is concerned. And therefore you have to find ways to work together, to be more collaborative rather than to be antagonistic. And so I'm not, while I'm not surprised, I'm definitely concerned about that kind of statement coming from anybody who holds any sort of office, not even as a team, as a government minister, to make that kind of reckless statement. That's all I wish to say on that.
Finally, before you go, MP Henry, there is a lot of concern as well pertaining to the reopening of schools. The minister is saying that she are working to have school reopen in September. Do you see that as a safe way to go, knowing that we're having a rise in COVID going on right now? We're 500 plus going to 6.
But 500 plus deaths.
Deaths. Yes.
Of course, the infection rate, as you know, it continues to climb. And also, on a daily basis, we continue to see that the deaths have not been able to decrease in terms of the numbers per month, per week, per day. Having said that, it is important that the education minister and sector take guidance from the health ministry and the international public health authorities, because there's generally a global trend. This is a pandemic, so it's not a Guyana situation. And so we understand that school has been out for over a year. The concern is that many students have not been able to get access to because the government has not provided all of the prerequisites that are required to have those children engaged in any form of remote learning. And so, rather than hearing an empty call that school will open then and dates being thrown there, it will be more beneficial and better use of time to have a plan that coherently articulates the government policy on the reopening of schools. Of course, such a plan should be informed by contributions from all stakeholders, including the same teachers union that we're speaking about. And we spoke about it a few minutes ago. So I'm saying that in the absence of such a plan being made public, and we just hearing dates being announced, it is certainly not to be taken seriously.
All right.
It can be reduced again.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, MP. And the protest continues here at the Square of Revolution.
Who must stop? Who must stop? Who must stop? Who must stop?
The installed government, Ali Barat, Priya, the whole pack of them, the Jebusites, the Hippocytes, all of them, the wicked set, they have to go. It's time. It's time to go. They must go.
The installed government.
Chief Whip, you're out here again. How is this going to be going forward? This is the second time you're here.
That's correct. So essentially, as we mentioned to all and sundry, that first and foremost, as a Guyanese we will be out here every Wednesday for 60 minutes from 12 to 1 o'clock. And all Guyana is invited to come out and vent their dissatisfaction as it relates to the regime. As it relates to cost of living, which is on the increase, the average basic goods, the average Guyanese cannot afford to feed their family. Whether it's bora, okra, shallot, celery, sweet potato, aloo, pumpkin, squash, belange, you name it, everything, all of the prices have gone up. You can't even afford now to drive a car because the gas prices as well are soaring. And while the taxpayers' monies are being squandered by these incompetent individuals in office, you have cost of living increasing. You have two successive budgets that have been passed with billions of the taxpayers' dollars. And one would have expected that you would see some of those monies being returned to the hardworking people of this country, the teachers, the nurses, the policemen, the policewomen, members of the Ghana Defense Force, and so forth. But instead of that, you have promises that are being made by this installed incompetent regime about they're going to increase wages and salaries. That's what they said. In fact, on their campaign trail, they said to all and sundry that they will increase salaries by huge numbers. The first budget was passed, millions of dollars allocated, no increases to the public servant. Then you had a second budget that was passed, billions of dollars. They boast they boast about the budget being the largest budget ever in Guyana's history. But what does that mean to the average Guyanese man and woman? If you pass the biggest budget ever and the cost of living, I cannot afford to feed my family. I cannot afford to drive a car. I cannot afford to pay my loan. You have the farmer there in Region 2 committed suicide because he cannot afford to pay his loan. You have policemen, you have nurses, you have public servants. They have bills to pay, whether it's at singers, courts, lucky dollars, or whatever the case be. They took mortgages. They have their home that they want to build, but they don't have the income to pay for those basic commodities. Meanwhile, you have people associated with the PPP, getting huge contracts, billions of dollars. You see, they're getting access to land and development. You see, the REO in Lefem, he's so pompous that the PPP is in office that they feel they can do whatever they like, whenever they like, to whoever they like. That he holds a position as REO, that he could pull out his firearm and shoot a woman there in Lefem because he's a PPP. And that is what is happening across the length and breadth of this country. You saw just a few days ago the accident there in West Coast Babis, which involved a senior member of the Ministry of Finance. And I bet you we will not hear nothing. We wouldn't hear about a charge being instituted against that individual. You saw there at Breeden Hoop when the policemen were trying to detain a driver, and the driver bit live on TV, bite that police officer, and to date, that person has not been prosecuted. But then you got the PPP using the Ghana police force to put fear and intimidation in people. That myself and Annette Ferguson from top charge about illegal possession while we were walking on the pavement on Regent Street. And that constitutes illegal possession. But that is how dictators operate. And as we said before, Guyana at the time, we were looking at a creeping dictatorship. But we have since gone past that because we are full in a dictatorship now, in which the voices of the people, the voices of the opposition, they're trying to suppress those voices. Look out here, on a national holiday, you have citizens from different parts of this country exercising their democratic right. And we have seen no less than a party of about 35 policemen between this space, between this small group of people. And why is that so? Because they want to instill fear and intimidation in the people. I want to bring this point to you now. When we talk about this dictatorship that Guyana now has, in which the voices of the opposition, they're trying to suppress it. The Prime Minister of this country, Mark Phillips, who has responsibility with the National Task Force, will allow the Ministry of Housing just a few days ago to host a housing drive in Linden, in which you had no less than 700 people gathered together under a tent. And they grant them permission to do that. You have the National Insurance Scheme with Onish Waldron and Ashley Singh going out throughout this country, gathering hundreds of people together in one space, and they have permission to do that. But when the opposition applied, and we deliberately did so because we wanted to see what will happen, when the opposition applied for permission to use a noisy instrument to speak to the people who would be shopping in border market, they denied that permission, and they said because of the COVID protocols. But it appears that the COVID protocols doesn't apply to the Ministry of Housing, who can gather over 700 people together, the National Insurance Scheme and Onish Waldron, who have hundreds of people gathered together, the Ministry of Education, who is gathering hundreds of people for this cash grant, which is inadequate, but they're gathering people for those purposes. But when the opposition applies to use a noisy instrument, you are being denied. That is what we're talking about. Guyana is fully in a dictatorship. We are fully in a dictatorship. Intimidation and fear. We read just yesterday in the newspapers, Mr. Khan spoke about a vehicle parked on his bridge at 2:30 in the morning and at 12 o'clock at night. And the vehicle spent less than a minute and then drove off. You have Jaipal Sharma, I would remind you, some months ago, showed us his CCTV footage with a vehicle that was parked in front of his bridge on several occasions. Why? To instill fear in people. And that is how the PVP operates. That is how we know the beast. That is how they operate. And that's why we say to all and sundry, irrespective of position that you hold, as you see myself and colleague MPs that are out here, is that first and foremost, we are Guyanese. And we reserve the right, and it is enshrined in the constitution of this country, that we can picket and demonstrate. We have a right to raise our legitimate discontent with what is happening in this country. And we praise the persons who are out here today, some of which came all the way from Blankenberg in Region 3. Some came from the East Coast. You have MP Fitzroy Jordan, who is here all the way from West Coast Berbice, to be part of a 60 minutes demonstration to bring attention to what is happening in this country. But it starts with a single step, and that step will get greater. And we know the numbers, as we've seen it here today, has increased exponentially. And we know next week, Wednesday, again, at 12 o'clock, we will be out here. And we expect all and sundry to come and spend 60 minutes of your lunch break out here with us as we protest this wicked, incompetent dictatorship that has taken over this Republic of Guyana.
Gotta go.
All right, that's the end of our broadcast right now. You're going to see back here next Wednesday with a Village Voice report of the protest. Have a good afternoon, everyone.